Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Kindred Souls of Brooklyn. And today, folks, we're going to explore the idea of why all the dinner shows in Orlando disappeared in the late 90s, early 2000s. So stay tuned for a really cool video. Hope you enjoy it. The lost dinner shows of Orlando. What happened to them? And why is Medieval Times the last one standing? Hope you enjoy it. So Orlando is probably the most competitive market in the world in terms of entertainment. I mean, you have all these tremendous companies like Disney and Universal and SeaWorld, and now you even have Legoland over in toward Lakeland, Florida. So obviously competition is a big factor, and it's an interesting concept because, you know, when Walt Disney first designed Disneyland in California, one of the things that drove him crazy was they could only afford about 100 acres, so it pretty much looked like a picture frame. And what drove him nuts was that all of these, you know, hotels, restaurants, and things kind of surrounded that picture frame. So he vowed that if he ever had the money, which he ended up having back in '64, and he never got to see his park open in Florida, but he did get all the money he wanted via pretty much the Mary Poppins movie, and they bought all these acres, you know, almost like 47 square miles of property in Orlando. And the funny part of it was that, in a sense, would you say Walt's vision failed? It really didn't fail, but it just goes to show you human ingenuity. And when there's a profit to be made, you know, Walt figured that if he had enough land, it would be a buffer zone between all these, like, you know, places that didn't really offer customer service the way he really envisioned and the way he felt was necessary. But in reality, the same kind of thing happened in Orlando. It was just that the picture frame was just a little bit bigger, or a lot bigger in this case. So, you know, having lived in Orlando now this past, over 20 years now, having been a cast member at Disney for 7 years, having just a knowledge of Orlando and knowledge of Florida the way I do, and, you know, my son would have been 31. He passed away in 2019. We spent a lot of time, we lived in Celebration, the Disney town, and so we spent a lot of time in and around Orlando. Currently I'm in Sarasota, but what it comes down to is that the concept of competition in Orlando now, I was just reading today that Dolly Parton, who did have a dinner show in Orlando up until 2013, it was called Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede. She also has a pirate show, and there is a pirate show that actually is still in Orlando. It's not that bad, it's actually on iDrive, but Dolly Parton's pirate show, which a lot of folks were hoping was going to come to Orlando, is actually not coming to Orlando. It's actually going to open in the Panhandle, which is an area like in North Florida, like south of north of Orlando, you know, north of Florida, basically.
Mind the way?
No, you're good. You're good. Fun having a YouTube channel. You see the little things that happen. I'll leave this in just for fun. Anyway, even Dolly Parton, with all her money and all her prestige, and this is not a knock on Dolly at all. I love Dolly. She has decided not to come into the Orlando market again because basically it's just too competitive. So she's going to open up the it's called Pirates Dinner Show or something like that. It's, you know, sometime in the next couple of months, she's going to open it up in, like I said, North Florida, which is the Panhandle area, which is where they made the Truman Show, and which was really the original, where Celebration got the idea from. It's a whole long story. You know, everything in these Disney videos and stuff like that, one leads to another. It's kind of like a rabbit hole. You just keep going down one from the other. But essentially, even Dolly Parton couldn't compete and doesn't want to compete again. She learned her lesson coming to Orlando. And, you know, again, getting back to Walt Disney, you know, I don't know. There's always a gray area in these things. And you say to yourself, now I'm going to give you my opinion as to what I feel, having seen Orlando the way it is now, having seen Orlando, I mean, I first went there in 1977, having seen it in what I call the golden era. Now, maybe the golden era to me is because when my son was little, you know, we were going down there and we had, you know, we went to all these adventures and stuff like that. But I really feel, one of my feelings is choice. And anyone who knows me knows I'm probably one of the biggest Disney fans. And, you know, I'm part of a Disney podcast called Monorail Tales. Again, I was a cast member for over 7 years. Probably will do that again one day. I just absolutely adore and love the company. If you take my blood, it probably, you know, if anyone gets my blood, they probably wake up singing Pirates of the Caribbean or Grim Grinning Ghost or something like that. But even for me, and maybe because we knew we were going to move to Orlando one day, or Kissimmee, or whatever what you want to call it. We'll call it Orlando, right? Even for me, I always loved the idea of choice. As much as I love Disney, I always enjoyed going to Florida and visiting different kinds of things. I mean, as much as I love the parks, it was important for me to get out of the parks and see different things and see a variety. And, my dad always said, variety is the spice of life. And, it just seems to me that as time goes on, and, if you're going to ask me, what were the two major factors that kind of, is it fair to say what killed Orlando? Or, because in a sense, Disney put Orlando on the map, right? But I kind of like the idea of choice. I love the fact of going to Orlando and taking a break from the parks for a couple of days. And, maybe because I knew we were going to live there one day and I wanted to, we spent time at the mall. We spent time kind of living the way you would live. Because obviously, as much as you love Disney, and maybe you could do like I did, you could work at Disney and, you'd be at Disney every day. But the reality is once you move to Orlando, you got to get a job typically. If you're one of the lucky ones that doesn't have to work, maybe you don't. But typically, you can't really spend every single day at the park, and essentially, you want to go down there. For my case, you want to go down there and pretty much see what it is to really live there, to mingle with the people, to see what the schools are like, to see what the malls are like, to just do the everyday stuff. And one of the problems, I think, now, what is the defining factor in all this, right? For me, the defining factor is, and this is, thanks for staying in the video, because I know I'm kind of diverting from the dinner show thing, but it all kind of makes sense. It all kind of correlates, is that the two big significant factors that happened in Orlando, which killed the dinner shows and killed a lot of things in Orlando, was the opening of Animal Kingdom in 1996 and the opening of Islands of Adventure in 1999. Because when those two things opened, they kind of threw things, most people come for a week, and, they would come for 3 or 4 days. And, obviously most people want to go to Magic Kingdom twice or whatever. So when those two extra parks came into being, a lot of these other attractions, side attractions, whatever, if you will, they started hurting. And in a sense, it was, on one hand, some of these attractions weren't always the best. And yeah, you're not going to get the Disney experience at Fort Liberty or Arabian Nights or King Henry's Feast or any of those places. But in a sense, competition is healthy and it's good. It's kind of like, again, it's like soda companies, Coke and Pepsi, right? I mean, they're buying up different soda companies, and there's not a lot of choice sometimes. And even though you're trying to avoid something, we're not trying to avoid it. But it's just, to me, the service at Disney, the service at Universal has kind of diminished in the last few years, because it's okay for it to diminish because there's not as many choices. And what seems to have happened is that people go there now, and it's a great thing. I mean, people want an all-inclusive vacation. They want to go and they, you want to go and stay in one place, and that's great. Maybe you don't want to be a driving fool like me, driving all over Orlando and finding all these lost little attractions. But that is what Florida is to me. That's the history of Florida. That's, I love mom and pop shops. I love mom and pop situations as much as I love Disney and a big company like that, because there's so many good benefits from it. And you might say, well, a lot of these small companies, they were employing people and they probably didn't give them good benefits and the wages probably weren't that great. True, in some cases, true. But at the same sense, I think choice is always good. And when Islands of Adventure opened up and when Disney's Animal Kingdom opened up, it made people stay more on their property, which was great for Disney, great for Universal. But if you go up and down Highway 192 now, which, God, when I was a kid, there was so many hotels up and down there. And, now there's still hotels, but that's kind of like a graveyard. Once you go past Medieval Times, and why is Medieval Times still left there? Probably because it's a company that's run very, very well. It also plays into the castle theme. And now, as much as, you go and see Cinderella's castle, you really don't get a chance to go in there. You don't see, knights riding horses. So I think when you go to Medieval Times, it's almost like an offshoot of going to Disney. It's almost like you see the castle at Disney and maybe you want a little more. So you go to Medieval Times and, okay, now I can see them riding and jousting and, the carousel, right? I always tell the story about the carousel. That originated in Medieval Times because it was a way of teaching the knights how to throw the javelin. And that's why carousels go go counterclockwise, because that was the idea, because most knights were right-handed. So, it's an interesting concept. So let's go over what went away in Orlando real quick, because I know you're staying on this video a long time and I appreciate it. But King Henry's Feast used to be on I Drive in Orlando. So right now that's in Olive Garden. If you think about Fort Liberty, which used to be on 192 just past Celebration, that's an Aldi supermarket right now. What are some other ones? Arabian Nights, I believe, is still an empty building. It's on Highway 192, not far from Wide World of Sports. It's where the Wendy's is. There's a Nike factory right next door to it. Obviously, that one's gone. Dixie Stampede, which was on I-4, which was right near Our Lady Star of the Universe Catholic Church. Probably one of the biggest Catholic churches in America. That one is Dixie Stampede was right next to there. It's where the outlets are. There's a bunch of outlets over there right now. And, you know, even Dolly Parton said she got an offer she couldn't refuse, right, from these outlets. So, you know, again, I know this was kind of maybe a little bit of a convoluted video, but I just thought it was important kind of to put something on film, because as time goes on, I mean, again, maybe these things should be forgotten. I don't really know, but the dinner shows were fun. I mean, my opinion of them was, well, you're eating the best meal possible. I mean, we used to joke about it. Like, even in medieval times right now, you go there and you look at the menu and it'll say, pastries of the castle, right? What's the pastry of the castle? It's a cupcake. You know, a lot of times you got flat soda. And those of you who know me, I probably never complained of food in my whole, maybe once when I was at Pecos Bill and I got this chicken that was maybe like 6 different colors. But for me, I'm a Coca-Cola guy, so flat soda for me is never a good thing. But, you know, were you getting the best food? No. The shows were interesting. Some of them were good, some of them were bad. But again, it was different. It was something that was different to do. And it was just kind of a cool little thing. It was a cool little aspect of Florida. But it's going away now, or it's pretty much gone away. And the fact of the matter is that when you come to Orlando now, you just don't have the time to experience the Florida history, the rich Florida history that made Orlando what it is today. And, you know, again, these things haven't been closed for all that long. You could look up very easily where they were and kind of take a little homage to them. And maybe like, you know, next time I go to Orlando and I have a couple of days, I'll probably do another video of actually going to the sites of these places. But again, I thought it was worthy to talk about them because, you know, our family, myself, you know, Matt and Kerry, we had a really wonderful time going to these shows. And, you know, and it kind of, you know, again, were they the best shows? No, but you kind of laughed, you know, you kind of laughed about the flat soda, or, you know, you got, you know, chicken and potatoes, and it was, you had to eat by hand, and there was no forks, no silverware, and, you know, everybody sat at a bench, and, you know, it was funny, it was weird, it was strange. You know, it was kind of a tourist trap. You'd go in there, they'd always take your photograph in the beginning, and they'd try to sell it to you for like $25 or whatever for a package deal of photographs or whatever. So, I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit long and lengthy, which is what I am. I'm always, you know, running off the mouth and telling a long story. But I think in this case it was worth it. And in thinking about this, I think it was an interesting concept, and I think I might explore this on our podcast, Monorail Tales. Because all this time, and I've never really heard this concept really talked about in this way. We always talk about, you know, we and people who know Disney and the company of Disney, they always talk about how Florida is this big swath of land, which it is. And, you know, he was able to do what he couldn't do in California. But, you know, in thinking about this, it really wasn't that different, because all it was he got a bigger bunch of land and other places opened up around him. So it was kind of the same deal. And, I guess now, because everything's gotten so big, all those places have fallen away. And mind you, in my opinion, in the last 20 years, Orlando is still a nice city in a sense. But now that I live in Sarasota, and and you get some perspective moving away from Orlando, which, for those who don't know, the reason we moved out of Orlando was because we needed a little break from it. My son Matt died there in 2019. So we decided to move away from there. Just needed a little space. It took us a couple of years really to even go back to Orlando, but happily, you know, we're getting over that, and I know Matt would want us to be over that, but that was the idea why we left. But Orlando kind of looks a little beaten up now, and because all of these other mom and pop stores are going out of business, you know, things are in disarray. I've never seen so many hotels that are, you know, just broken down and vacant. I've never seen so many hotels that are just, I don't even want to say what they really are today and what they function as today. You can probably imagine, you know, and this is in the shadow of Walt Disney World, in the shadow of the castle, in the shadow of Orlando. And all of these places are just not really the best places to be. And, you know, obviously, you know, and this is a topic for another video, you're never going to really see a lot of crime statistics from Orlando because, you know, Orlando, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, they patronize, you know, the police departments down there in a sense. And, you know, I'm not going to say things are not the way they should be, but just think about this. If you think about the show Cops, Osceola County, Orlando, Osceola County, Orange County, were never ever on that show Cops in 30 years. And the reason for that was because those big companies didn't want it to be on there. And they were kind of coaxed into not ever doing a show there because, you know, the police departments wouldn't agree to it, because if you're in Disney and Universal and SeaWorld's good graces, then, you know, nice things come your way, helicopters and, you know, whatever, all kinds of nice, cool stuff. And but also a big shout out to those folks who do that job, because I love them and I worked with them and they're wonderful people. But just talking about the city of Orlando now, how, you know, there's a lot of homeless in Orlando right now. And you go up and down 192 and, you know, it's no different than any other city. But I guess my point is with all these other things falling away, the city has kind of disintegrated a little bit. And yeah, if you stay on Disney property or Universal property or near SeaWorld, and, you know, you're not going to really see it. But if you drive around, you drive near the Florida Mall, or you drive certainly on 192 past medieval times, you're going to notice it. So anyway, I better cut this video because I'll be talking to you for an hour. It'll be a movie. So if you're staying on this long, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video. This is Al signing off. I love you. Take care of yourself and have a magical day. Haven't said that for a little while, so say it today. Have a magical day. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.